Kanaka, talofa lava, malo alele, and warm Pacific greetings. My name's Nell, my pronouns are she and her, and I'm looking forward to helping you become confident with creating successful job applications. Before we get started, I'd like to point out that there's no correct way to write a CV, but rather it's about showing how you're a good match for the role and the employer. The next thing I'd like you to think about is the importance of a CV compared with other important documents like your passport or your degree. In this video, I'm going to talk about the purpose of a CV, you'll learn 3 steps to writing a great CV, how to write a cover letter, and I'll talk about job application forms as well. Your CV is not a legal document like your passport, so you don't have to use your full legal name. You might choose to use your preferred name instead. Go with whatever you'd like the employer and your new colleagues to call you when you start your new job. But it is an important document. You'll spend thousands of dollars and years gaining a well-respected qualification, but that alone won't get you employed in New Zealand. You wouldn't submit a poorly researched assignment and expect to pass, so if you want an interview, do the mahi. Treat it like an assignment that you need to do the research for in order to be successful. Some countries might focus more heavily on qualifications and skills, but regardless of the context, your CV is a professional document which describes some combination of your qualifications, skills, experience, strengths and personality. Employers in Aotearoa like to see all of these elements included. It's also a marketing tool. Imagine a salesperson going into a company trying to sell them a service or a product. With your CV, you're the product, which the employer might need or welcome the opportunity to benefit from. Another aim of your CV is to get a job interview, not directly to get the job. The recruitment process might include a number of steps, starting with your CV and cover letter, followed by an interview, maybe an assessment centre, some psychometric tests, a second interview, and negotiating the offer. You can learn more about these steps in our other videos about how to succeed in job interviews, psychometric tests, and assessment centres. So ultimately, getting a job will be the result of a number of successful steps in the recruitment process, but first, your CV has to get you to the interview. So create your CV with this in mind to help you think about what information is most important at this stage in the process. To do well in a job interview, research the position, the company and the industry so you'll be confident talking about how you can contribute to what is required of the role. Do the same with your CV. Research the company to understand what they might need and then describe in your CV how you can provide that. So drafting your CV is great preparation for an interview. It might also structure an interview because the interviewers might ask questions based on your CV. So you can potentially influence what they might ask about by being very intentional with the information you provide. The interviewers might make notes on your CV, so after you've gone, it serves to remind them of your top skills, strengths, experiences, etc. Your CV and cover letter are the single most tangible piece of evidence of your written communication skills. If you write that you have high attention to detail, but you've spelled detail wrong, the reader is more likely to believe the error they see rather than what you've said about yourself. And finally, your CV can be a really powerful professional development tool. When you read your completed CV, are you proud of your skills, contributions and experiences? If not, where can you look for opportunities to make yourself proud? Is there a skill that employers regularly look for that you're not very confident with? How can you develop that skill? How are your values demonstrated in your cover letter and CV? Do you even know your values? Drafting a CV can raise insecurities and make you experience a bit of imposter syndrome. So take the opportunity to explore those doubts and figure out if you're being too hard on yourself, setting unrealistic expectations, or if you've discovered an area for development. We can help you with this if you're stuck. Jump online and book an appointment using the link in the description. There are 3 steps to writing a great CV. Plan it, write it, and check it. When planning your CV, consider how your skills, strengths and experiences match the opportunity you're applying for. Think about how you'll present that, so the style, the formatting, the layout, which sections you'll include, and what information will go in the cover letter and what will go in the CV. Put yourself in the employer's shoes. Ask, would I employ this person? So research the employer. Find out where they operate from, who are their clients and customers. What are the current issues and challenges for the company and the industry? What are their future prospects and plans? You can learn more about how to research a company on page 12 of your Guide to Job Hunting. You can find an online version of this using the link in the description below. Allow yourself time to read and understand the position description. Put some thought into how you might go about completing the tasks and meeting the responsibilities that are listed. What might the challenges of this role be for you? How might you overcome those? What will be the easiest or most fun parts of the job for you? How will you balance those with the challenges so that you're making the most of the opportunity for your professional development, bringing your whole self to work, and contributing as best you can? Make sure the content of your CV is relevant to the role. You might like to create a master CV with all your information on it, and then for each application only include what's relevant to the company and the role. Follow any specific requirements the company has to show that you can follow basic instructions. And think about those country-specific requirements. So as I've mentioned, some countries put a bit more focus on different things in a CV. UC has a subscription to a website called Going Global, which can help you with this. It has over 40 country career guides and a heap of city-specific career guides, which include localised career advice, such as what makes a CV successful in that location, where to find jobs, and tons of other useful information as well. You can access Going Global using the link in the description below. When writing your CV, again, think about it like an assignment. Write your first draft and then go back over it later to make your sentences flow a little better or rearrange the order if that seems more suitable. Use a style of communication that suits your audience. If we think about how engineers communicate, straight to the point, use bullet points. Lawyers, on the other hand, need to use fully formed, well-constructed sentences and paragraphs to build their argument. So use the style of communication that demonstrates your skills relevant to the industry. There are several essential sections that should be included and several optional sections, depending on your experiences and the role you're applying for. Personal details will include your name, physical address, which is still preferred in New Zealand, your email address, and maybe a LinkedIn URL or other online link like GitHub or BitHub if that's relevant. The level of detail you include in your education section depends on your experiences and the role you're applying for. Start with the most recent qualification first, and earlier education can be kept to a minimum unless they're relevant. You might like to add any particularly relevant courses or projects you worked on throughout your university study. This may or may not be necessary because some employers will request a copy of your transcript. A PDF of your internal transcript from MyUC will usually be sufficient for this, unless they specifically ask for your official transcript. In that case, you'll need to order a copy from Student Records. We'll come back to skills and attributes in a moment. Your work experience, like your education, goes in reverse chronological order. Include the dates, the position title, the employer, and responsibilities relevant to the role you're applying for. You might like to separate out your achievements from your responsibilities. Talk about the difference or impact you made, or how you added value. Did you implement any changes? You don't necessarily need to include a different heading for responsibilities and achievements. Just use words such as successfully completed XYZ. You could consider having a relevant work experience section as well as an additional work experience section. I've talked about how employers in different countries focus on different things like skills, qualifications and experiences. To employers in Aotearoa, your personality is important too, so the interest section provides an opportunity to get your personality across. It can tell employers how you like to contribute outside of work and also provide evidence of your skills such as teamwork and leadership. So consider how your interests differentiate you and be ready to have a conversation about it. For example, maybe one of your interests is surfing. Do you do it to keep fit and healthy or for some time out to maintain your resilience? Do you compete or is it a fun summer activity you enjoy with family and friends? You should try to list a couple of referees on your CV. These should be people who can speak about your behaviours in a work context. The more recent the better, and New Zealand referees are preferable, but referees from overseas can be used as well. Maybe there's a professor or lecturer who's gotten to know you well enough to be able to comment on the work behaviours you've demonstrated during your study. Perhaps there's someone who's witnessed you working as part of a club or group you belong to. If you genuinely have no one to list as a referee, consider getting involved in clubs and activities on campus or volunteering in the community to build some experience and gain referees along the way. Check with someone before you list them as a referee to make sure they're willing and able to speak on your behalf. Provide them with a copy of the job ad and your application so they have all the relevant information. Moving on to the optional sections, we often see a profile that reads something like, "I'm a hard-working, honest and reliable individual who would make a great contribution to any employer." This is too vague and doesn't provide any solid evidence. It's a great way to describe yourself, but the reader has no way of knowing whether it's an accurate description. A better use of this section might be with a more forward-looking summary, which says something like, I'm in my second year of a law degree at Te Whare Wānanga o Waitaha. I'm looking for opportunities to gain experience and use my knowledge in practical ways so that I can make a meaningful contribution to XYZ. Another way to use this section might be as a way to introduce some personal information. Something like, I moved to Ōtautahi to study earthquakes. I'm looking forward to contributing my knowledge in the hopes of maximising resilience for communities facing civil emergencies. Or you could share your mihi in this space to demonstrate your bicultural competence and your whakapapa. Achievements and awards can be a useful section to use if you'd like to share successes you've had outside of work or study. I recently worked with a student who had won New Zealand Dragon's Den, and I was really pleased to see it listed on their CV. It tells employers a lot about you, primarily that you've got the skills required to achieve success. If you can do it in other areas of your life, then you can do it for the employer. List any memberships you have with professional bodies or clubs that might be relevant to the role. This demonstrates a genuine commitment to the industry or the activity. As a university student, you're a professional in training, so look into which professional bodies might be a good fit for you and see if you're eligible for a student membership. This can open up a number of opportunities for you, which you can learn more about in our seminar on how to find a job. I've touched on links, but I'd like to add that if you have a blog, or even a TikTok that is relevant to the role, you can list that in your CV. Employers will often Google your name to see if your online presence matches the impression they're getting from your application. If you have a strong LinkedIn profile, that'll be the first thing that pops up. If you don't have a strong LinkedIn profile, next on the list is Facebook. I'm sure you can appreciate the different impression an employer might get of you from those two platforms. So make sure your online presence represents you in a way that you'd like to come across to employers. We could ask every employer in Aotearoa if they like a photo on a CV, and half would say yes and half would say no. We have some employers at one end of the scale who like a photo because they can remember the candidate in the green shirt, and employers at the other end of the scale who have software which blurs a photo so they can't be accused of discrimination. If in doubt, leave it out. These days, employers will likely be able to find a photo of you online if they're interested. Other sections you might include could be projects to highlight work you've done that is relevant to the role, published articles if you're applying for academic jobs, or teaching experience for teaching roles. Coming back to writing a skill or attribute, identify the key skills and attributes the employer is looking for by reading the job ad and the position description if they've supplied one. If the position description isn't included, you might like to check out the job profiles on Careers NZ for ideas about what they might look for in this job or similar jobs. Have a think about how else you might find out what skills they could be looking for. Put your suggestions in the comments. Order your skills by relevance to the job. So if the employer refers to collaboration, teamwork and cooperation in 3 separate instances in the job ad, you know that a collaborative approach is important to them. So put that first in your list of skills. Use the STAR technique to help you provide evidence of your skills. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the STAR technique, it stands for situation, task, action, and result. You'll get the chance to use this technique in full during the job interview, but you can use an abbreviated version of it in your CV. For example, great customer service skills developed by working at McDonald's during the summer break. So this example focuses on the situation, working at McDonald's during the summer break, and the result, that you've developed great customer service skills. Other examples might focus on the task and the result, or the action and the result, depending on your experiences and the role you're applying to. You can learn more about the STAR technique by clicking the link in the description. Avoid repetition. Don't use precious space in your CV to say something again in different places. Choose the best place to introduce the information and don't repeat it later unless you found it to be an extremely important factor to the employer. So to help you with all of this, you've got access to an online CV builder which can generate a draft CV based off the information you enter. It's important to note that this is just a draft. It's almost certain you'll need to modify it, but it provides a really good starting point. If you are going to use a template to get started, CV Builder is a good option because it's mostly suited to the New Zealand student and graduate recruitment market. Once you've got your content, check it thoroughly for mistakes. A spelling error could be the difference between you making it through the recruitment process or not. Also, avoid jargon or vague copied phrases from the internet. If your CV is not unique, it's too vague. It should represent the things about you which make you a good match for the role, which will be different to how someone else is a good match for the role. Likewise, each CV you produce will be unique because the roles you're applying for will focus on different skills and qualities. Make sure it's accurate. Don't over-exaggerate or straight out lie on your CV. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term 6 degrees of separation, but in most parts of the world, you know someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows the recruiter. In New Zealand, however, it's closer to 2 degrees of separation. So if you lie on your CV, it's highly likely it'll be discovered because the recruiter knows someone who knows you. They might know someone who works at a company where you used to work, or they might know one of your referees. You can learn how to use this to your advantage in our How to Find a Job seminar. Check if it's well presented. Is it brief but comprehensive, and have you used consistent formatting throughout? Your CV should have impact for the right reasons, not because it's got several spelling mistakes or typos, or because it's lime green, but because the content is relevant and shows a good fit between you and the role. Keep it brief, 2 to 3 pages for student and graduate positions in Aotearoa. Check it again for relevance. Is it well tailored? If you could change the name of the company in your application and what you've written is still true, then it's too vague. Keep it positive. Talk about what you've got to offer rather than what you or the other candidates are missing. To help you with checking your CV, you've got access to an online CV checker called CV360. You can upload your CV. It takes less than 20 seconds to score it on 58 different data points, from the big picture things around the skills that it's finding and how much experience the software can read, right through to the more detailed things like whether it's been modified in the last 3 weeks. So some employers won't bother looking at it because they know it hasn't been tailored to their opportunity. CV360 is a great opportunity to get some experience with applicant tracking systems, or ATS. Many employers use these because they make it much easier to manage large numbers of applications. They're a bit like Turnitin if you've used that here at university. With Turnitin, you're looking for a low percentage match to show there's no plagiarism. With applicant tracking systems, you're looking for a high percentage match to show that you're a good fit for the role. So use their language. If they talk about collaboration skills, then call it collaboration in your application. If they call it teamwork, then use those same words. Have clear sections and clear headings in your CV, like education. Avoid pictures, logos, icons, tables, columns, all those fun sorts of things, because ATS can't read them, which might make the employer miss important information. Make it a Word doc. ATS can't read PDFs very well. ATS can't read something that's spelled wrong, so check your CV thoroughly for spelling errors and typos. So how do you know if a company's using an ATS? If you're asked to fill in an online application, they're probably using an ATS. The URL might give you a hint if it lists the name of a specific ATS. Names to look out for include Oracle, JobVite, Workday, and SAP SuccessFactors. Most job boards use these with their one-click apply buttons, like the easy apply function that LinkedIn uses. See if you can think of other ways you might discover if they're using an ATS. Moving on to your cover letter. The purpose of a cover letter is to interest the reader enough to make them want to read your CV. It's the link between the more fact-focused CV and applying for a position in a professional and friendly manner. First impressions are important, and your cover letter is potentially your first interaction with an employer. It provides an example of your written communication skills. From the first time they lay eyes on the cover letter, they'll be forming an impression of you, so keep the font clear and readable. Don't make it too small as if you're trying to cram everything onto one page. Try to find out the name of the person who'll be reviewing the applications. If there's no name listed in the job ad, phone the company to ask, and don't forget to ask how they like to be addressed. So Miss, Mrs. or Ms, for example. That person might be available when you call, and so you'll have the opportunity to talk to them directly about what they're looking for in candidates. Now when you write your cover letter, not only can you address it to them directly, but you can reintroduce yourself by thanking them for their time on the phone last Thursday, and begin to show a good match by referring to something from the conversation that particularly interested you or aligns with a project you worked on during your study. See if you can identify the top 3 criteria they might be looking for, either in the job ad or on the phone call, and talk about how you meet that criteria in your cover letter. Phoning the company also provides an opportunity to be individual and personal. Another way to show some individuality and personality is to consider talking about what interests you about the industry and the company, and demonstrate that by using examples. So if you say you're interested in supporting their clients or contributing to a project they're working on, then talk about why you have that particular interest. You can make this a little personal by telling them about an experience you had that sparked that interest. This might be an assignment you worked on at uni or a personal experience. Don't get too personal though. Remember, you haven't met this person yet, so oversharing might make them feel a little uncomfortable. A cover letter should be no longer than 1 page, and it should use the full page. Some space will be taken up by the formal address block, which will include your name, physical address, the date, their name and physical address. This is still the expected layout of a formal professional letter in New Zealand. It should have three main parts: the introduction, the body and the closing. The body should have a couple of paragraphs which emphasise the relevant skills you have and how they'll benefit the employer. These paragraphs will reflect the research you've done, not necessarily by saying I've looked at your website, but if you mention a particular project or something you've discovered from their website, it'll be obvious that you've done that research. Your cover letter should explain why you're writing fairly early on. Use specific aspects of your experience and background to demonstrate how you're a good fit with that position that you're applying for. It should be clear why you want to work for this organisation rather than the dozens of others out there who do similar work. So let me give you an example. If I want to make a career out of fast food in New Zealand, I might want to apply to McDonald's and Burger King. They both offer a similar service and product. But let's consider their ads, the environment in their restaurants, the way they talk about themselves, and who their audience might be. When I go into a McDonald's, I notice the kids' playground and sometimes the rooms you can book for kids' parties. When I think about a McDonald's ad, I remember the one where Grandad takes the kids out for the day, they laugh and play and finish the day sitting on the bonnet of the car at the beach eating McDonald's. When I recall how McDonald's talks about themselves, I hear them referring to themselves as a family restaurant. So in all of those areas, I can see the family values coming through strongly. When I apply to McDonald's, I might talk about how my strong family values match with theirs, and I appreciate how they create opportunities for families to spend quality time together on a budget. Now let's talk about Burger King. I remember their ads where the narrator talks quite loud and fast, the logo's on fire and it expands so it looks like it's coming out of the screen at you. In a Burger King restaurant, they have the game machines and the TVs playing music, so their target audience might be the 18 to 25-year-olds. When I apply to Burger King, I'm going to talk about how I like to keep my customer service skills current, relevant, dynamic and engaging. So I'm going to talk about different things according to who I'm applying to and the impression I've formed about that company. Your impression of McDonald's and Burger King might be quite different to mine, and this is another way in which your applications might be unique. Following that, write a strong conclusion that implies some self-assurance that you believe you'll hear from them, but without being boldly overconfident. So all of these principles apply to application forms as well, but there is some additional things to consider. Make sure you follow their instructions. If you have any problems with their technology, then phone them to let them know. This might provide you with an opportunity to ask them what they're looking for in a candidate and applications. Draft your answers in a Word doc and then copy and paste them into the form when you're ready to submit. This will ensure you've eliminated any spelling mistakes and typos and create a copy for you to look back on when you're invited to the interview. Be bold and unique. If it's super obvious that everyone's going to talk about communication skills because the company's put a clear emphasis on that, then get creative about how you might demonstrate those skills in a different way to everyone else. Questions on an application form will usually fall into one of three categories: motivation-based, experience-based, or strengths-based. Examples of motivation-based questions might be, why do you want to work for us? Or what interests you about this particular sector? Or experience-based questions, give an example of a time when you worked successfully as part of a team. What was your contribution? And a strength-based question might be something like, what do you most enjoy doing? Which of your achievements are you most proud of and why? Check out our YouTube playlist called Job Application Tips from Employers to hear for yourself what employers have to say about CVs and cover letters. We've got heaps of useful resources to help you with everything I've talked about in this video. You can collect a copy of your Guide to Job Hunting from the office or access it online. We have a heap of employer information in the office to help you learn about different companies and the graduate positions, internships and summer opportunities they offer. NZ Uni Talent is a jobs board where employers post opportunities specifically for students and graduates. So you're not competing on the open market with people who might have 10 years experience. I know I've talked about a lot of variables and it can be difficult to organise all of that information into 2 to 3 pages. So please feel free to book an appointment with myself or my Huamahi Dave to get some help with it. We also run drop-in sessions every day from 10 AM till 12 noon where you can get a quick check of your CV, cover letter or LinkedIn profile. If you found the video helpful, give us a like and share it with someone who might need it. Come back soon to view our other videos on how to succeed in job interviews, psychometric tests and assessment centres. We welcome your suggestions, questions and feedback, so drop something in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Karawhiua.